Most of my clientele were high-powered businessmen, lawyers, doctors. So this one guy, he was a brilliant brain surgeon, really top tier in his field. He had actually retired, but then he gets bored. And so he did this part-time consulting with a hospital that would call him with their craziest questions. So he would only come and see me when he was on call for work. He wanted me to fuck him as hard as I could and distract him as much as I could for when he was on the phone with the hospital giving medical advice. The game and the fun, his kink was to keep a straight face and stay focused on his phone call while he was being distracted by me railing him as hard as I could. He would be whatever the medical jargon, oh yeah, so you need, 50 cc's of blah, 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 and I would be really serving him my finest strapanista excellence.
Oh my God. Do I need to worry that my medical team is getting railed while saying how many cc's I need of things? I'm Sammy Mounts. This is Happy Slut. Welcome back, Pine Cones. If you have been subscribed to my Substack, you might have seen a couple essays recently where I talked about attending Dixie De La Tour's birthday orgy in San Francisco, meeting a woman named Elle who made out with me and my partner Daniel. And in a subsequent essay, I wrote about how Elle flew across the country just to spend 28 beautiful, magical hours with us. If you haven't read those essays, stop everything you're doing right now. Go to samiamounts.substack.com, become a paying subscriber, and you can read both of those essays in full. But definitely go check those out because Elle is my guest on today's episode. We're using her professional name, Lyra. In addition to being an absolutely sexy, charming, delicious, polyamorous slut like myself, Lyra is also a professional sex worker. She's a pro-dom who specializes in pegging and anal play for men, and she loves it. This conversation is so fun. It's so flirty. This is the first woman that I've been involved with for a really long time. So getting to interview her on the show is just amazing for me. So you'll get to see lots of Samia being blushy and flirty if that's something you enjoy. And you'll also get to hear a story about somebody who's really beaten a lot of odds to step into their own joyful sexuality in a way that is very happy slut. So, without further ado, here is Lyra. Lyra, my queen, welcome to Happy Slut.
We're doing it. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. All right. So I'd like to ask you for your perspective on how we met and our experiences together, just because I've written about this on my Substack. I talked about it in the episode 2 weeks ago, but now you're here. You're here.
I'm here.
Yeah. So Lyra, tell me about how you met me.
Absolutely. Thrilled to do so. Honestly, I'm only slightly nervous here, but also just you're so beautiful and distracting, and I'm so Twitter-pated about you. So I will get through this.
God,
So
now
yes,
I'm Twitter-pated. I was together and now I'm not. Okay,
well,
go ahead.
sorry, not sorry. So I love body storytelling. I've been going for about 13 years. It was crazy to really do the math on that. I love Dixie De La Tour so much. I've actually told 2 stories on stage, and that was where I first saw you and Daniel. Y'all both told fantastic stories, and I just remember the way your charisma, your beauty, the way you put this story together, I was just so thrilled and excited and like, who is that? So, and then I knew that you would be there the next day at Dixie's birthday party. And I was super excited. I saw you and it was kind of like, I was from afar, I was a little nervous. I'm like, oh, that's the one. And my goal that night, I'm usually one of the biggest sluts at the party. I really go for the gold in terms of like trying to find my little threesome. And this party, for many different reasons, I decided to keep it more chill. I mean, arguably. And my goal was to make out with 10 people. So I was making the rounds and Daniel was number 9. And then I had a designated number 10. And then I came back and found you. And it was just such a delicious wait because I kind of kept putting it off. And once it happened, it was just rainbows and rainbow cannons going off in my brain. Just so thrilled. And it was so easy and delicious and sweet. Like we'd been doing this for a long time. And then the 3 of us made out and I was like, woo, this is great. But then I had to flit off and do an impromptu, play workshop demo that was really, really amazing and was a key pivotal moment in my life for sure, especially as I'm trying to evolve as a sex educator. It was really, really amazing. And especially to have you two in the front row, I felt very excited about that.
Yeah, just it's so synchronous and wonderful and serendipitous, all those things. What made you decide to come and visit us? It was a dream come true when we got your message, but like how did that happen in your head?
I'm a freak of nature slut that really I've just never been afraid of sex and I really go after what I want. And obviously I wanted to play with you that night, but just circumstance. So I decided, yeah, I'm going to make this happen. I'm just a really picky slut, actually, more and more so, like as I get older. I'm in my demisexual renaissance right now. And so I'm very picky. And the chemistry that we had was was so delicious. And I decided, yeah, I'm going to make this happen. I was already on my way to see my partner in New Orleans. I was like, just duh, it makes sense. I'll just stop by Texas. I've not spent like any time in Texas. And it was just so sweet to get to know y'all. We had such a juicy, amazing, epic conversation. Like you said in your article, I was going through a really hard time and it was just so easy and not pressured. Pressure doesn't work for any situation, but especially like potential threesome vibes. So we had such a wonderful conversation and just was easy.
Yeah, pressure doesn't work for sex, period. Like threesomes, one-on-ones, pressure doesn't work. Pressure doesn't even work for masturbation. Like if you're sitting there pressuring yourself to have the orgasm eludes you.
So true. So true.
Yeah. I mean, I think we get this idea from, sort of like the dominance philosophy of patriarchy, like always just apply more pressure and you'll get what you want. But that's not a thing with intimacy. I love that you get that. I love that we get that. I love us.
I did too.
So we've gotten little teasers of like who you are. We know that you do anal play workshops. We know that you're building a career as a sex educator. We know that you're now a picky slut and maybe you used to be not as picky. I am very interested in the journey that led you here to this day. Lyra, what is your origin story?
It's funny. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts now, and so many of the sluts on your podcast talk about how they were just sluts early on, or just so very sexual, really voracious at an early age. And I am in the same category. I think I started masturbating around 4 or 5. I was so enthralled with this thing in my body. I remember thinking like it felt like sunshine was exploding out of my stomach and into my head. I was just like, this is the best thing ever. And it was really clear that adults were very uncomfortable with my sexuality and I didn't understand it. And so I didn't talk to my adults in my life about it, but any peer that would listen, I was like, guys, this thing is incredible. And I actually had, this is so crazy. I ended up having a diddle buddy on the school bus in first grade because there was this lovely gal that was just super interested in what I had to say about this body thing. And I was so excited to share. And so we had this secret game where we would sit at the very front row of the school bus. We'd put jackets down on our laps and I would touch her and she would touch me. And that was my very first lesbian experience.
Oh my gosh.
In first grade.
First grade. So you were like 6.
Yeah.
Wow. Like I remember playing games like that when I was around 8 years old. Like it's so normal. But the fact that all the adults in the world are like, nope, children can't be sexual. And so we're just going to ignore this until we can't ignore it. And then when we can't ignore it, we're going to just make everybody feel really uncomfortable because we feel really uncomfortable.
And have the most awkward talk ever that's traumatizing. Yeah. And then, it's so bad out there sex-wise. We live in a very puritanical Christian society still. And I don't think people really quite grok that. And it's crazy.
I think they think that they can protect kids by pretending their sexuality doesn't exist.
Sure.
But it accomplishes the opposite. It puts them in harm's way because now they're left to diddle each other on the school bus and navigate all of this on their own. And the only people telling them real information are their peers, and their peers are also children. So we're failing kids. All right, back to you. So you were horny very young. You had your diddle buddy in the first grade. Where do we go from there?
Gosh, where do we go from there? So the spiritual community I was raised in was a very interesting high control group that I later understood to be more culty than I was raised to understand. They had a very interesting philosophy around sex. They were not Christian. They were not like, hey, you're a sinner, you're going to hell. They didn't talk about Jesus. It was all about manifestation and remember The Secret back in the day that Oprah was all excited about? It was very much that. We are all children of God. Gay people are welcome, which was a big deal. You're not a sinner. Everybody is created equal in the mind of God. But it was a very toxic, positive environment. And yet it was all about unconditional love, and hugs were mandatory. There was no consent. There was no boundaries. Ultimately, I understood later that it was a lot of love bombing and grooming, actually. But setting that aside, it was actually mostly pro-sex, but without any consent, understanding, or boundaries. So I went to church camp and everybody lost their virginity at church camp, but we didn't have any education to do it well. And the oversight was not there. The rule was no fraternization with each other at camp, no sexual touch at camp, no boys and girls dormitories, vice versa. But everyone was fucking and everyone knew it, but turned a blind eye. So back in the day, that was a great environment for me. I was like, yes, we're left to our own devices. I'm going to fucking do this. At 15 years old, I lost my virginity in kind of a movie epic way.
Tell us the story. Paint us the picture.
Okay, so it was an adult conference that had a youth program, and my parents thought it was like church camp where the oversight was there, but I didn't realize it. They didn't realize it. I get there, I realized that the youth program chaperones set us free at 8:00, and I'm like, oh, I have a sweetheart. We'll call him D. And I'm so ready. I'm chomping at the bits to lose my virginity. So I made it happen. I walked up to his roommate and was like, you're moving in with my roommate. It was a week-long conference, and I'm moving in with D. And I made it happen. And it was magic. It was absolutely, I mean, we were in this gorgeous cabin on the ocean. It was in Monterey Bay. I have a gorgeous view of the ocean. We have a fireplace and literally a bearskin rug. And we just fucked all week, and it was magical. Looking back, again, I won't go into the cult stuff too much, but looking back, he was 18, I was 15, and there were a lot, even though I didn't experience a traumatic sexual encounter in my church camp experience, a lot of others did. And it ultimately was very problematic that there was not a lot of oversight.
Right, because they're sex positive, but they're still keeping sex in the dark.
Absolutely. And it was totally fine. Everybody turned a blind eye until you got caught. And then it was a big deal. And then there was a lot of shame. And then you're like marched into the principal's office essentially. And it was all about, are you willing to recommit to the integrity with your word and like, and knock this off, even though like everybody knew. And I was just clear from day one, sex is my thing. Nobody's going to shame me for it. And monogamy doesn't work for me. I didn't understand monogamy from a very young age. I was very clear. Even though I had a loving family and my parents are still like obnoxiously in love and have been married for almost 35 years, I had that structure and that healthy example of monogamy. And still I was like, one person my whole life? Are you fucking kidding me? No way. And the day I lost my virginity, I also met my husband, my future husband, who was the first love of my life.
Not the guy that you were hooking up with at the
Correct. They were best friends.
Oh, okay. Drama.
Yeah. Oh, drama. The drama at church camp.
So you made your sexual debut at this church conference. Also met your future husband. What happened after that? Did you and this 18-year-old like keep dating, or was it just a fling?
For a little while, I thought I was in love. It really wasn't a thing. He broke up with me, whatever. And then I moved on to, we'll call him Jay. And it was just a searing love from the get-go. And so we started hooking up when we were 17, dated long distance. He was in San Diego. I was in Reno. And then it was our first year of college. And it just did not make any sense to try any kind of thing, anything monogamous. I didn't want to hold myself back or him. And so we didn't have the terminology polyamory back then, but it was just when we're together, we're together. And when we're not, because it doesn't make sense to like, not explore other people, especially in this like budding, exciting first year of college experience. So we did a long distance. I had an interesting relationship back in Reno, another church kid, and I had a very taboo relationship because he came into our youth group and my best friend and I were immediately attracted to him, but she got him first. They dated for about a year and a half. They broke up and I was very clear. I understand this unspoken rule about not dating someone that your friend has dated. And even though I thought it was stupid, I loved her and I respected this relationship so much. And I knew it would be really bad if I hooked up with this guy. And long story short, we ended up kissing at one point, and I was like, we can't. We were just like, the sexual tension after 2 years of them being broken up, the sexual tension was insane, and he kept wanting to hang out. And so we ended up kissing, and I was like, you got to go. I can't do this. I have to tell her immediately. And I was like really committed to being in integrity with my word. That was another big part of the church. So the next day I went and told her, and I was like, I'm so sorry. This is what happened. He kissed me. I pushed him out of the car. Like, I'm not going to do this again. I just wanted to like be upfront because I know it would break your heart if you found out anywhere else. And I was trying to be upfront and be responsible. And she immediately broke up with me and uninvited me to our graduation party. We were going to have a joint graduation party. And she just like, you're evil. You're awful. I can't believe it. We're not friends. Da, da, da. And I was heartbroken. I was so heartbroken.
She'd been broken up from this guy for 2 years?
Yes, I waited. I fucking waited. And our sexual tension was seriously. And I was like, you know what? Fine. And so why not? And so I fucked him relentlessly, and it was delicious, especially the forbidden fruit thing. It just made it, to this day, it's still some of the best sex I've ever had, in the back of my Subaru shaggin' wagon most of the time.
Ooh, I feel you so hard on this. I had a similar experience in college where a friend of mine, they didn't even date. She just liked him. She just liked this guy. Had a huge crush on him. And I also had a huge crush on him, but I wasn't allowed to talk about it because she talked about hers first.
Yep.
Right? So then I had a night with this guy where we were on a walk by ourselves and we were super high, and he kissed me and I kind of kissed him back. And then I felt really bad about it. So I told her, ended our friendship.
Yes. And this is so stupid.
And at the time and to this day, I'm like, you don't get to have dibs. Like, you don't get to have dibs on a person, first of all.
Yes.
So if
Yes.
you're not actively with somebody, you don't own them. Fuck off. If they want
Ownership.
somebody, yeah, ownership, exactly. It's a possessiveness thing. And also, if you dated them, but it's been a minute since you broke up, lay the fuck off. Let them fuck other people. Like, give me a break. I'm
Give me
sorry.
a
You don't
break.
own them forever. Like, go to hell. Go have your fucking
Yes.
graduation party by yourself, you mean girl.
Yeah. And it was kind of a theme. It was just like girls with that mindset, I just always had trouble with. And I never understood it. I was so clear, like, this is bullshit. I'm not, like, especially the ownership piece, monogamy. Like, okay, how is it so socially acceptable for a marriage a marriage, a family with kids? You're only allowed to touch these genitals. And if somebody else touches any other genital, the whole family unit is broken up, and like that trauma of destroying a whole life is acceptable, but like polyamory is not. What the fuck are we doing, guys? No, I'm
Yeah.
not having it.
The system's set up to make people fail. And I mean, patriarchy is all
Absolutely.
about ownership and population control. That's what it is. And so these attitudes that get baked into culture and then baked into people's minds sort of make everybody a little tyrant in their own personal love life if they subscribe fully to these beliefs about sex and love.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could go
Sex and
off.
love is not finite. Like, let's do this, guys. Grow up.
Okay, so where are we? You have this scandalous
I
relationship with your
have this
friend's
scandalous
ex.
relationship. Yes. But meanwhile, I'm in love with Jay, but we didn't get to see each other very often. So after a year of college being together, but not, he broke up with me, and it was a healthy decision. It was like, we're so young, we need to go do our own thing. But I always, in the back of my mind, I was like, someday I'm going to circle around to you. I'm going to play the long game on this guy.
What was so good about your connection? Why was it so intense?
We had the exact same upbringing. The cult, both of our parents were heavily, heavily, heavily involved in the church. Our lives rhymed so much. It's so crazy. Like, we were 5 days apart. So we were both Geminis. Our brothers were also 5 days apart. They were both Aries. Our mothers were both the same age and both Tauruses. And then our fathers were both Leos. Like, our whole family structure was the exact same. We had the
Whoa.
exact same indoctrination, change your thinking, change your life, positivity, positivity. And there was also this interesting social element at church camp, or within my church structure, of there was a lot of social cachet and understanding of like where you were in the social ladder. And he was a golden child and I was a golden child. So our relationship within the church was like sanctioned, and oh my God, you're going to get married and have kids and become ministers, obviously, and carry on the faith. And so that was just our whole environment. And I think that definitely played into me being so in love a lot. But at the same time, he was just a really sweet, great guy. I was not into machismo asshole dudes. I was very clear from a young age. I dated like a couple and I was like, you're not interested in me sexually. You're just going to like kind of pound me and come and not, worry about what I want. So I was really interested in more effeminate men. And eventually women as well. But I didn't have my queer awakening until I was like 18. And it felt magical. It felt ordained. He was very sweet and kind and just really willing to adventure and explore with me and be with this crazy pants that was hypersexual, and they thought that was hot. And I opened their world to polyamory and sex parties and all that.
So he was okay with you being quite slutty and having fun with it?
For the most part, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he definitely dove in head first once I found the poly community and the sex party community, and he came back into my life at like 22. He dove in because I was like, this is my world. I'm never going to be monogamous. Take it or leave it. This is what's happening. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, great. I get to fuck other people. Okay.
Right. And then they actually start experiencing it. It's harder than they thought. So wait,
Yes.
so you were high school sweethearts, broke up in college, and then got back together?
Yeah, we had about 3 years of just being friends and, friends with benefits every time we saw each other. But our lives didn't, intersect a whole lot. And I was in Berkeley. He was still in Southern California. He had this awful girlfriend for about 2 years. She was truly fucking awful. And finally they broke up. And then he immediately contacted me and moved to Berkeley at about 22. We jumped right back into bed together. And 2 months later, I proposed to him. So
Wow.
it was just like, yep, you're the one, you're my partner. We've been doing this for a while, even though it's like new again. I was clear.
Did you do like a fancy choreographed planned proposal, or was it spur of the moment?
It was spur of the moment. At this point, I was just starting to be a sex worker. That's the whole story. But I was at work one day and had an incredible experience with a client, actually, that was really fulfilling, and we clicked really well. And Jay was really positive for the most part about my work and realized that, yeah, this is, this makes sense for you. This is making us a lot of money. I was fine with it. And I just felt like it was all clicking. I was so excited about the work I was doing. And I came home, he was reading in a corner, and I just tore the book out of his hands, jumped in his lap, and was like, will you handfast me? Because I was very excited about that idea. Will you handfast me and marry me for a year and a day? Handfasting is actually an ancient Celtic practice. They were very pragmatic people, and they had all their different clans and tribes, but they would come together usually for like a 1-year festival get together. And a lot of times young people would fall in love in this week together, but then would go back home. And if they were in love and excited about each other initially, they needed to spend a full year together to see if it was actually compatible. Unfortunately, it was a little bit more patriarchal in that. It was actually, could the woman get pregnant was a big factor. But setting that aside, then they could break up amicably and be like, okay, cool, that didn't work. We don't need to hand fast again. And it was literally a ceremony of like tying their hands together. That's where we get this term tying the knot. So I wanted to do that and see, because it was still pretty new, and I was trying to be pragmatic, and let's just see if this whole concept of marriage is going to work for us. So we did. We had a lovely hand fasting ceremony, and we were fucking in love.
Was it a legal wedding?
So not the first year. It was just a ceremony.
Because it was the year of hand fasting.
Yeah. And so then a year and a day later, we're like, hey, do we still like each other? Do we still want to do this? And like, yeah. So then we signed paperwork, which I don't recommend. Never get the state involved with your relationship.
I co-sign this advice as somebody who is staring her divorce down right now.
Yeah.
So wait, you just like so saucily slipped in that you were just getting started in your career as a sex worker. And we skipped the whole story about how that started. So definitely need to hear that now.
Okay. So I moved to Berkeley finally. I was so clear that Reno did not work for me, and the Bay Area is when I wanted to be. So at 20, after a bunch of travel and finding myself, this is where the cult comes back in and gets really culty. My church camp friends that I grew up with were like, we're these positive spiritual adults and we're going to change the world, and we're all about, unconditional love, and we've like grown up together and we want to do this big thing. So we were going to create a young adult community in the Bay. It was a house, and 8 of us lived there, and we put on Friday night services, like spiritual services for young adults. The leader of the whole thing that like put this together financially, the adult in the house, the minister, really supported us and supported our we were a bunch of randy, young adults released into the world, and were really horny. And this cult leader really sanctioned our sexuality and was like really positive about that and clear about that in the community, even though the larger community wasn't like so excited about that part of our deal. So we've created a 501c3 nonprofit thing. I jumped into this nonprofit spiritual community and immediately discovered the word polyamory. I was like, that's me. And then discovered sex parties. I'm like, that's me. That's where I'm going. I initially found the Power Exchange, which I don't recommend at all. It was a horrible experience. I spent 20 minutes in there and left.
What is it?
The Power Exchange is I think it still exists. It's a sex club in in the the Tenderloin. That's right. It was super sketchy in the Tenderloin. And it was just like such awkward old dudes masturbating in the corner. And it was super creepy and super cruisy. And I was just like, this can't be it. So then I found Mission Control, and thank God. And so I was really jonesing to go to a party. I was all excited. I was trying to find a buddy to go with me, and I couldn't find anybody willing to go. So I found this particular party. It was called Club Kiss. It was kind of the cash cow of Mission Control. And it was sort of a vanilla party for straight people. A couple had to pay $80 to get in, but single ladies got in for free. So I was like, okay, great. I'm just going to go by myself. Fuck you guys. So I went to my very first sex party. I was all glammed up. I looked fabulous. I had waist-long dreadlocks at the time because I was this little granola girl trying to save the world, a little vegetarian, sexy weirdo. And
You're still a sexy weirdo.
I'm still a sexy weirdo. I'm a freak of nature that like doesn't experience jealousy and just wants to fuck. So it's pretty great. It's a pretty great life. The very first person I ever met, we'll jump to my partner now, was the person. They were working the door. They checked me in and they checked me out. And we had serious chemistry from the start. I'm like, oh my God, who is this? Apparently they had the same reaction, but they were working that night, so we couldn't like do anything. So I had an incredible time. I think I hooked up with about 3 different couples, and I'm just naked and frolicking up, flitting about from room to room. And my partner and I now just kept making eyes at each other the whole night. And they were like, who the fuck is this new girl? Like really getting it on. So we exchanged numbers, and that was my very first play party. But yeah, there were a bunch of different parties within Mission Control that had different flavors. There was like a more lesbian, sapphic one. There was, all different situations.
Okay, cool. All right. And you met, can we call them A?
Yes, we'll call them A.
And you met A, who is now your partner, at that party.
This was 14 years ago, and we've been fucking ever since, and we've like massively fallen in love in the last 3 years.
Oh, okay. So we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
All right. So so you go to this very first play party. This is part of the story of how you ended up becoming a sex worker. So let's pick up the thread.
Okay. So, I took it back to my spiritual community. I was like, guys, this thing, no, really, you have to do this thing. I was the gateway drug for so many people to enter the sex party scene. And I would throw these events pretty much. I would make these dinners at my house, invite anybody over that was willing to jump in. And we would have a conversation. We would have like a 30-minute long, I would kind of tell them like do's and don'ts. And here's how to, I know this is a scary big thing, but I'm going to hold your hand through the whole thing. And you're going to jump in to whatever degree you feel comfortable with. And I kind of gave a whole spiel about it and then answered questions. And then we got glammed up, and then we would go to the party, and it was great. The cult was very pro-sex. So I was just like, yep, this is what I'm going to do. So sex work came out of the sex parties. I met a woman that was like, hey, you're a hot slut. Have you ever thought about doing this professionally? I run at like an in-call space, and I do, she was kind of like a madam of this space, and she had a whole array of girls. It was a very vanilla space. We only did FBSM, full body sensual massage. So happy ending massages, basically. There was no sex involved. And so I got excited. Yeah, that sounds great. And she's like, and there's money. So I was like, okay, yes, please. So I jumped into that and was the granola girl with my waist-long dreadlocks. And I liked it, and I was really good at it. But after like 4 months, I got incredibly bored. It just wasn't enough. I was like, yeah, okay, I can do this sensual thing, but like, I want more. So I went to her and was like, hey, this is kind of how I'm feeling. And she goes, funnily enough, guys keep asking for you to do pegging work. Is that something that you would be interested in? And I really had no idea. I knew what it was, but I didn't have any experience with it. And I said, yeah, sure, let's give it a try. Jumped in with both feet. She did not give me anything to work with. She handed me a strap-on, some dildos, a bunch of lube. She said, use a bunch of lube, and here you go. I had no idea what I was doing, and I learned on the fly, which I do not recommend because you can seriously hurt people. Thank God I managed to not have any extreme problems, but I learned and I figured it out, and I got really good at it, and I loved it.
That's great. Wait,
Yes.
I need to hear at least one story from the growing pains portion of this
Oh my
chapter.
God. I have so many stories, including one that I told at Body Storytelling. Okay, this was probably the craziest one and the most fun. This was after I got my sea legs and I was pretty good at it. First of all, ladies, if you have never had sex with a strap-on, if you've never fucked with a strap-on, have a little compassion for the guys that are doing the thrusting, because it's a workout and a half, and it really my stamina was poor at the beginning, and it really took a while to kind of build up to that. So anyway,
your stamina is quite good at this point. I can report.
Samia. Truly
it just got
delight.
like 5 degrees hotter in this booth.
Truly a delight to fuck you. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so back to the crazy story. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm like a little bird.
So the crazy story. Most of my clientele, some people will be shocked to know, were high-powered businessmen, lawyers, doctors, politicians were the ones walking through my door. They were so on and had to be so professional and make all the decisions and be, the strong dude in the world. And they would come to me just absolutely exhausted, first of all, for taking care of everybody else in their life, and just did not want to be in charge, just wanted someone else to take the reins. And it makes so much sense to me now, but I was really surprised at the beginning. So this one guy, he was a brilliant brain surgeon, really top tier in his field. He had actually retired, but then he gets bored. And so he did this part-time consulting with a hospital that would call him with their craziest questions and, oh my God, the situation, what do we do? And so he would only come and see me when he was on call for work. And he wanted me to fuck him as hard as I could and distract him as much as I could for when he was on the phone with the hospital giving medical advice. And it was the game and the fun. His kink was to keep a straight face and stay focused on his phone call while he was being distracted by me railing him as hard as I could. So I had to be quiet. I had to be quiet, but other than that, no holds barred. He was like, fucking do it. Give it to me. So he would be like, whatever the medical jargon, oh yeah, so you need, 50 cc's of blah, 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 and intense being a medical professional on the phone with these calls. And I would be really serving him my finest strapanista excellence.
Oh my God. Oh, I just hope that he never made any mistakes.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm just now like, oh my God, do I need to worry that my medical team is getting railed while saying how many cc's I need of things?
It was just so wild because you could tell he had explored everything. He was a marathon runner and a deep sea scuba diver and the most extreme, what do they call it? Parachuting, and one of those
guys,
extreme.
yeah.
And he had just gotten through all of it. Was so bored. He just had to keep taking it up to the next level. So
that is crazy.
It was wild.
Okay, so you got really good at ass play. Basically,
yes.
Kind of randomly because you got bored of sensual massage.
Yeah.
And you loved it.
I loved it. I was not ever perturbed by stuff in the booty. I had been a nanny previously for a long time and dealt with diapers like forever. I had dogs and like it just was not ever a problem. And I was never squeamish about it. So, and I was really kind and compassionate when it did happen. I was like, yeah, well, this is part of anal sex. Here we go.
Shit happens.
Shit happens. It
Mhm.
really does. And it will continue to happen.
As long as there's
Yeah.
assholes, there will be shit.
Yeah. Hey, poop is there first. That's its home. We are simply visitors in the land of, anal play. So respect the situation.
Okay, so where does the story go from there? So at this point, you're
Gosh.
married to Jay.
Yes.
You've gotten really into sex work. You're specializing in anal play. Where to go next?
So I guess this is kind of where my chronic illness comes in. I've been chronically ill my whole life and was experiencing a lot of intense body pain at that time. So
Mm.
ultimately, after about a year, my body sort of gave out and I wasn't able to do sex work anymore. I now have such a better when you're doing sex work, people often ask me like, how does this affect your personal sex life? And it really does. There is kind of a finite amount of sexual energy one has to give, and I was giving it all to my clients, and ultimately like my sex drive really tanked, and that was a big problem in my marriage, and I was just so sad that like my slutty life didn't have any juice. I now have a practice. It's really important to create a persona. It's not that I'm being fake, but I put Lyra on when I am working and I need to take her off. But that was a whole process that I figured out later, but that was part of the problem in my early days of sex work. So I got out of it. My husband and I were on just an interesting path where we were still really indoctrinated in the church stuff and struggling and not understanding why we were struggling. We had the exact same blind spots. We had the exact same upbringing. We didn't have real tools for the real world. So we just struggled until my mental health really collapsed. It was a really bad scene, a really bad time. Again, neither of us had the tools. It was all about toxic positivity and keeping a happy face on. So we both had this like fake happy face that was really problematic for a lot of reasons. And we weren't allowed to we didn't know how to deal with hard stuff, grief, anger, sadness, loss. And we policed each other in this way that was still so part of the church mindset. And I had some depression issues. And ultimately, I got a bipolar diagnosis that now makes so much sense. But because we were raised in a very Christian Science upbringing, medicine and doctors and therapy and mental health was so taboo. You could pray your way out of anything. That was the whole thing.
So the church that you've been referring to this whole time is Christian Science. Are you okay with me saying that on the show?
Yeah. So it was Christian Science based, but it was a subsect called religious science that technically said, doctors and medicine are part of God too. Like if you're sick, go to a doctor. But the culture was still very puritanical Christian Science. If you went to the doctor or if you went to therapy, your consciousness was lacking and it was a spiritual downfall.
You're demoted. You're like a toad now.
Yes. Absolutely. And it was really, really bad to the detriment of it being lethal. A dear friend of mine in the church died at the age of 19 because he had leukemia and his family didn't know that he had leukemia. And so he got an infection. And by the time they got him to the hospital, they were like, yeah, I'm so sorry. There's nothing more we can do. Your son has a staph infection. And because of his leukemia, he's not able to fight it. And they were shocked. And the doctor's like, you didn't know your son had leukemia? And they're like, no, we've never seen a doctor. We've never gone to the doctor. That's the kind of tragic, problematic stuff about the church. So anyway, my mental health was I was not able to look at it. It was so taboo. And I struggled a lot with my health.
Are you comfortable talking about what chronic illness you were dealing with besides bipolar disorder?
Yeah, so I have lupus and fibromyalgia and chronic pain syndrome and POTS and a bunch of
Oh,
stuff. And I was so undiagnosed for so long. Now I have Western medicine and I have monthly infusion treatments for my lupus, and my life has changed so significantly. And I'm now on psych meds that keep my brain chemistry more balanced and aligned. It just took forever to get there.
it would if you were raised to believe that, like, seeing a doctor makes you fucking weak. Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm so
yeah.
sorry. I'm so sorry that you had to grow up with that.
Yeah. So finally, everything collapsed. My mental health collapsed, and I tried to jump off the planet. And I was in a mental hospital. Unfortunately, Jay did not have the tools, did not have the resources, and he left me in the mental hospital. He called me on the phone, said, I want a divorce. I'm over this. I can't deal. He tried to put our dogs in the pound. He got rid of all my shit, took my car, and moved back in with his family and left me in a mental hospital in Washington.
Where does he live? I need to pay him a visit.
You know, it was fucking awful. And the cult took his side and decided that I was a pariah that was now negative and bipolar and broken. And they didn't want me to bring them down, basically. So they shoved me out.
With toxic positivity and that Christian Science thinking, if you have a medical malady,
You should be able to pray it away. You should be able to heal yourself with the power of prayer. So if you couldn't or you didn't,
you're a dark spot.
and we don't want you to bring us down. Yeah.
Get out of
Basically.
here.
Yeah. Get
Wow.
out of here.
Abusive assholes. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And thank God they did. But at the time,
Ugh.
it was obviously devastating.
That's your whole
This is for
world.
my whole world, my whole chosen family. I'd spent 25 years building this like precious community that was all I knew. And I lost my person, my community, my family. And it was really rough. I had a really hard 2 years after that, rebuilding my whole life.
What kind of support did you have in that 2 years?
So thank God I jumped back into my sex positive community, and they were fucking there for me. I don't know what I would have done without them. I had kind of taken a hiatus from them because I was so wrapped up in my marriage, even though I was still a little slutty, but it was just, we were so enmeshed. It was so unhealthy and codependent. But I dove back into my slutty community, and they provided me a place to live with a work trade agreement. So, because I couldn't afford anything, I was still struggling with my mental health. My brain was soup for 2 years as I was figuring out the right cocktail of meds. Even though, thank God, there are meds, like it's a really rough road to like figure out the right cocktail. And I was a broken mess for a long time. That's where A came back into my life. And I honestly, like, I just don't know what I would have done without them. They were the voice of like, no, all of you is okay. The mania and the depression, which I was like, I couldn't handle depression. I didn't know what to do with it. Even though I had help now and a bipolar diagnosis, I was just like, I'm broken and bad when I'm depressed, and then I swing back into mania, and it's all great. And it took me a long time to learn that like mania is actually also very problematic, and to find a middle way will continue to be the work of my life. But their steadfast support and love and truly unconditional love for me was how I was able to rebuild my life. And I'm really proud of the life I've rebuilt.
This was a real inflection point. How long ago was this mental breakdown, divorce, rebuilding period? How long ago did all that start?
4.5 years ago, that all came crashing down. And then A came back 6 months after that. Like I moved back to the Bay, and we've been falling in love really, really hard for the last 3 years. It's really beautiful. And I've gotten more picky in my slutitude. My demisexual renaissance has been kicking in. And it's so magical and amazing with us. They know my body so well. And anything that isn't that level, I'm just kind of like, it's not worth it, especially jumping back into sex work. Now I'm a pro dom.
I was just going to ask, so where are we now?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank God. Well, honestly, the biggest reentry point was I have chronic illness stuff. I have a body that cannot handle a 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, 20 to 40, even 50, $60 an hour, like just wasn't going to cut it. And there are periods of my life I'll have like a depression spiral, or my pain will flare up and I can't get out of bed, and I just can't be expected to go to work every day. So I literally, pun intended, need the biggest bang for my buck. And even though it's this interesting underground world, I have enough money for shorter periods of work that it makes my life go. And so that was one big piece of it. And I still love butt stuff and have expanded my practice. I'm a pegging specialist for sure, first and foremost, but I've also learned a whole lot about pro-doming. I'll toot my horn just a little bit. I'm really good at what I do and I absolutely love it. I feel so passionate about sex work. I will always acknowledge that there is, unfortunately, a side of sex work that can be sad. I will always delineate sex work from sex trafficking. That is a whole different thing. That is a horrible, horrifying. The fact that sex trafficking exists boggles my mind and makes my heart so angry. And there's also a lane of sex work that can come from a place of desperation and be non-consensual and unfortunate. But then there's a lane of sex work that is really empowering. And I exist in this fringe world with other women, non-binary and men, that practice this because we love it. We're providing a service that is so essential. And the fact that we are marginalized and stigmatized just is really unfortunate. And I strongly believe that so many people would be better off if they hired sex workers more often. We are educational. We are a safe space, especially for men. I predominantly work with men that need a sexual haven, that have so much shame and stigma and a lack of self-awareness and just ability to explore their own bodies. And it makes me sad every day. And we are a refuge where they can be honest and authentic. And so much of sex work is not about sex. I cannot tell you how many times I've had someone collapse in my arms and just cry and just need to be held. So I'm very passionate about this work, and I feel strongly that we need a better way to interact with sex work.
Thank you so much for laying that all out. We were talking yesterday about this bombshell essay that the feminist writer out of Canada, Clementine Morgan, just released, calling out the inherent misogyny of pornography and also sex work. And it was interesting because she talks about how, as somebody who was a sex worker when she was really young, looking back at it, she feels strongly that she was acting out her trauma and it was very bad for her. And she calls out older women who were around at the time, who were feminists, who were telling her how empowering and healing and important sex work is for society. And she's like, yeah, but all that love and healing is going in the direction from women to men. Where is the love and healing for the women? And she makes a great point. If you are engaging in sex work because you've got no other options and you're desperate and you're traumatized, and, in her case, she was an alcoholic, it's a dark thing. Just like in pornography, the vast majority of it is misogynistic slop. And then there's some exceptions to what most of pornography is. There is feminist erotic material. And that is not aligned with the vast majority of pornography. So like her point was, the majority of sex work is trafficking. The majority of sex work is desperation. But in some communities, we have a feminist empowered version of sex work, which is what you're engaging in. And that can be healing. So what does it do for you?
For me, It's always felt really clear. I like working with archetypes, and I believe that story is really an important part of our lives. We're obsessed with Hollywood. We're obsessed for media for a reason. Seeing yourself represented in in media and in our storytelling is just a huge part of being a human. And I like to think about archetypes and mythology and stories that have come before and how they inform, how art informs what's happening in life and is a reaction to where we're at in humanity. And I really identify with the sacred whore. Again, it's so stigmatized, and that word, just like slut, is often used as a derogatory, dirty, slanderous thing. I'm reclaiming it. And honestly, I kind of take personal offense to women that call themselves or call other people whores. If you haven't earned that title, like, no, if you haven't stepped into this arena and stepped into the underworld and taken on the risks and the madness, the sometimes mind fuck of what we do, you haven't earned that. Sex work is the oldest profession in the world, and it will always be there. It will always be needed. And there are even cultures or ancient times where the sacred priestess, the sacred whore, was a venerated, honorable position in society, especially healing menfolk, especially in times of war, where men would come back traumatized and so fucked up from these experiences. And they were not accepted back into society until they saw the temple priestess, the sacred whore, to heal them and to work through this trauma through a somatic healing. And then they came back into society and dealt and interacted with their wives and their families. This has been a theme forever, even in less healthy versions of it, where wives were seen as this sacred angel vessel, mother, child bearer, and the prostitutes were where men, got off and had their fantasies. And that has always been a pillar of how patriarchy works. Unfortunately, it's often at the expense of women, and that's problematic. And again, there's a lot of issues in this world and in this sphere, and always will be. But again, the healthier version, I've always felt called to this archetype, and that my sexuality is part of how I show up as a healer. I am very proud to announce that I have just been accepted to a program. I am going to be training to be a partner surrogate therapist.
What is a partner surrogate therapist?
It's fairly similar to sexological body workers. It's a hands-on somatic, it can be erotic therapist that works with specifically a client's MFT or licensed therapist. Usually the licensed therapist will refer their client to me. So it's a triad structure of care. And I talk to the therapist about whatever the intimacy issue is. And I work with people anywhere from body dysmorphia to just shame around sex for whatever reason, older virgins that for whatever reason have never had a sexual experience, and what I'm most passionate about is people with disabilities. There are so many reasons why people don't have sex, and I feel really passionate that touch and affection is a huge part of our being human and our needs. And I believe that it should be absolutely a part of our healthcare, especially for disabled people, to have access to touch and affection. And the healing connection of intimate touch is really important. As infants, if we don't get enough touch and love and eye contact, we die. And we're all just big babies. So it's really important. And unfortunately, there's an epidemic of touch-starved people in our world, and especially men. I see so many clients that are like, I was married for 20, 30 years and I had all these desires, especially around anal play, that were taboo, that were shamed, that my wife was just completely uninterested in. And I'm like, yeah, let's get your sexual renaissance going. So I love people. I love supporting people in this way. Human sexuality will never get boring. There's infinite kinks out there, and it fascinates me to no end. And I feel like this next certification is my next evolution, and I'm really excited about it.
Lyra, how can people find you if they are interested in working with you?
I am at queenlyra.com. I'm starting to do more coaching sessions with couples and individuals. And like I said, with this training, I will be at a new echelon of resources and ability to help people through intimacy issues of all varieties. Yeah, come check out my sandbox. And if you want to play, I'd be delighted to work with you.
QueenLyra.com. That's QueenLyra.com, correct?
Correct. Lyra.
And where can people follow you on socials?
Queen Lyra on Instagram. My Insta is like very much at its infancy, but I'm working on it. I know that this world, requires all that shenanigans. But yes, that is where you can find me. And I am so grateful, Samia. This is such an exciting podcast. And I feel really excited for you and passionate that this work is really important. We need to continue to reclaim our slutitude. We are sexual creatures, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. So thank you for your work in the world. And thank you so much for having me.
All of these links will be in the show notes. If you'd like to check out Lyra on socials or inquire about working with her, go to the show notes, get those links, check her out, get in touch with her. Lyra, I'm just such a fan of you. I'm so grateful that you came into my life. You've been a healing presence for me and my partner, Daniel, who says hi, by the way.
Hi, Daniel. You're very sexy and lovely as well.
You truly are a sacred, like when you were talking before you said sacred whore, the phrase in my head was sacred slut. Like you really are that. Your energy, your sexuality is healing inherently. It's an honor to have you in my life and an honor to have you on this show. Thank you for talking with me today.
Absolutely. Let's keep doing it.
Let's keep doing it.
Feeling so alive. So long till the sorry days. Yeah, bye, bye, bye.
I have such a crush. I have such a crush, and I hope you do too. If you are interested in working with Lyra, again, those links are in the show notes, queenlyra.com and queenlyra, Lyra, on Instagram. So get in touch with her. She is amazing. She is healing. I highly recommend intimate time spent with Lyra. If you'd like to support the show, if you are getting something out of listening or watching each week, please consider supporting the show financially by subscribing to my Substack as a paying subscriber, sammyamounts.substack.com. Again, you can see those 2 essays I wrote where Lyra makes appearances. There are free essays every other week and paid essays on the alternating weeks, but the paid essays always have a little teaser, so I do give my free subscribers some good juice in the paid essays. So please consider becoming a paying subscriber. But if you can't afford it, become a free subscriber, sammyamounts.substack.com. You can also support the show financially by making a direct cash donation. My Venmo is at Sammia-Mounts. My Cash App is Sammia Mounts. Lastly, if you haven't already, please leave a review for the show on whatever platform you're listening on, especially if it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Those reviews really help get new listeners to find the show, and I appreciate each one. I want to shout out listener Coach K Rules, who wrote on Apple Podcasts a review that says, "Thanks for showing us that there are other ways to be in this world." Yes, our world is so prescriptive. It tells us who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to love, what we're supposed to eat, what we're supposed to wear, how we're supposed to fuck, how we're supposed to die. And we have all this pressure on us to do everything the way the patriarchy says we should do it. Get married, have kids, serve your husband, serve your children if you're a woman. If you're a man, get married, have kids, make the money, bring home the bacon, take care of everybody and they'll take care of you. But also you're better than women. It's exhausting how much patriarchy ruins the experience of being human by telling us how we're supposed to live and being so goddamn demanding and enforcing it so rudely and abusively. I am not for it. There are other ways to be in this world. non-patriarchal ways to be, human ways to be. We can all embrace our humanity and reject patriarchy, which tells us that half of all people aren't fully human. We can reject that in our personal lives. And if we do that, if enough of us do that, eventually it will create a revolution where collectively we reject patriarchy and embrace humanity instead. So let's do that. Let's keep having these conversations. Let's keep having delicious, pleasurable, intimate experiences. Thank you, Coach K, for your review. And if you would like to be shouted out on the show, leave a review of your own, and I will continue shouting out people who've left reviews. I really appreciate them. Also, comments on the socials. Follow me on Instagram at samia.mounts. Follow the show at Happy Slutcast on Instagram and TikTok. And finally, if this episode or any of the episodes helped you or you think it can help somebody you know, share. Share on socials, share in an email, share in a text with a specific person that you're like, hey, you need to hear this. Those shares go a long way towards helping the show grow as well. And I appreciate everyone. All right, my sweet pine cones, thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves. Next week, I'm going to be interviewing Poly Superstar. You might have heard Lyra mention a sex party in the Bay Area called Mission Control, which is still going very strong. Poly Superstar founded Mission Control. She's no longer involved in the operations of Mission Control. She's handed it off at this point, but she started it. She also founded Kinky Salon. This woman is an icon in the sex positive scene in the United States. I am so excited to interview her. That's going to be next week, so tune in for that. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Go do something pleasurable and delicious this weekend. And maybe write me an email and tell me about it. happyslutcast@gmail.com. All right, that's it for this week. Bye, sluts.